The lights in Terminal C were buzzing as Sarah Martinez held her boarding pass with shaking hands. She was about to board Flight 447 to Los Angeles. This was her last chance. She had a job interview that could change her life and help her take care of her 8-year-old daughter, Maya. After losing her job when her company shut down, things had been hard. This new job at a tech startup was her only hope. She had spent almost all her money on a first-class ticket. It was a big risk, but she had no choice. As she walked to gate 23, she had no idea something amazing was about to happen. What came next would change everything, and reveal a truth so strange, it would make people wonder if life is really full of accidents, or something more. Sarah had never flown first class before. The leather seat felt foreign beneath her as she settled in, acutely aware of the other passengers' expensive watches and designer handbags. She was checking her interview notes for the 100th time when the commotion began. "Please, ma'am, there has to be something you can do," a desperate voice pleaded from the aisle. Sarah looked up to see a flight attendant speaking with a man in his early 30s, his face etched with worry. Behind him stood two identical boys, no more than 10 years old, their eyes wide with confusion and barely contained tears. "I'm sorry, sir, but the flight is completely booked," the flight attendant explained with practiced sympathy. "The system shows your original booking was for 3 seats in economy, but due to an overbooking situation, we can only accommodate the children. There's a later flight this evening." "You don't understand," the man interrupted, his voice cracking. "These are my sons and their mother. She's in the hospital in LA. She had a massive stroke 3 days ago, and the doctors say..." He couldn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. Sarah felt her heart shatter. She glanced at the boys, one clutching a worn teddy bear, the other gripping what looked like a handmade get-well card covered in crayon drawings. Their fear was palpable, innocent faces trying to process a tragedy no child should have to understand. Without a second thought, Sarah stood up. "Excuse me." The flight attendant turned, clearly frazzled. "Ma'am, please take your seat. We'll be departing momentarily." "Take my seat," Sarah said simply, looking directly at the father. The man blinked in confusion. "I'm sorry. My seat. Take it." Sarah was already gathering her purse and carry-on. "I'll take the later flight." "Ma'am, you don't understand," the flight attendant interjected. "This is first class. The difference in ticket price doesn't matter," Sarah said firmly. She looked at the father, whose eyes were now shimmering with unshed tears. "Your sons need to be with their mother. That's more important than anything else right now." The man stared at Sarah as if she were an apparition. I can't accept this. You don't even know us." "I'm a mother too," Sarah replied, thinking of Maya waiting at her grandmother's house. "I know what it means to need to be there for your child." One of the boys tugged at his father's sleeve. "Dad, is Mommy going to be okay?" The father knelt down, his composure finally breaking. "We're going to see her right now, buddy. This kind lady is helping us get there faster." Sarah felt tears prick her own eyes. "What are their names?" "This is Jake," the father said, placing a hand on the boy with the teddy bear. "And this is Luke." The other boy held up his crayon drawing. A picture of a family holding hands with "Get well soon, Mommy," written in shaky letters across the top. "I'm David, by the way. David Chin." He extended his hand, which Sarah shook warmly. "Sarah Martinez. And don't worry about paying me back or anything like that. Just be with your family." Can you imagine making such a spontaneous decision to help complete strangers? What does this moment reveal about Sarah's character that will become crucial to our story? The flight attendant, who had been watching this exchange with growing amazement, finally spoke up. "Mr. Chun, if you'd like to board with your children, we need to do this quickly." David turned back to Sarah one more time. "I don't know how to thank you. This is everything to us right now. Just give your boys a hug from me when you see their mom," Sarah said, stepping back to let them pass. As the family made their way down the jet bridge, Jake turned around and waved his teddy bear at Sarah. She waved back, watching until they disappeared into the aircraft. What Sarah didn't know was that her simple act of kindness had already set in motion a series of events that would ripple through more lives than she could imagine. As she settled into the uncomfortable plastic chair at gate 23 to wait for the evening flight, her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Good luck at your interview tomorrow, Mom. You're the best." Sarah's heart sank. The evening flight would get her to LA at 11 p.m., and her interview was at 9 a.m. She'd planned to use the afternoon to prepare, maybe even visit the company offices to get a feel for the environment. Now she'd be lucky to get 4 hours of sleep. But every time doubt crept in, she thought about Jake's teddy bear and Luke's crayon drawing, and she knew she'd made the right choice. The hours dragged by. Sarah bought an overpriced sandwich and tried to review her presentation notes, but her mind kept wandering to the Chen family. She found herself praying, something she hadn't done much since her divorce 2 years ago, that the boy's mother would be okay. Around 4 p.m., an announcement echoed through the terminal. "Ladies and gentlemen, we regret to inform you that Flight 623 to Los Angeles has been canceled due to mechanical issues. Passengers will be rebooked on tomorrow's flights as space becomes available." Sarah felt her world crumble. Tomorrow's flights were likely full, and even if she could get on one, she'd miss her interview entirely. This job was her last real opportunity before her savings ran completely dry. Have you ever felt like the universe was testing you right when you needed a break the most? What would you do if a good deed seemed to cost you everything? She was contemplating calling the company to explain when a commotion near the gate caught her attention. A group of airline executives in sharp suits were huddled in intense conversation with the gate agents. Their body language suggested something big was happening. "Excuse me, are you Sarah Martinez?" Sarah looked up to find a young woman in an airline uniform approaching her with a tablet in hand. "Yes, that's me. I'm Jennifer, the customer service manager. Could I speak with you privately for a moment?" Confused but curious, Sarah followed Jennifer to a quieter area near the windows overlooking the tarmac. "Ms. Martinez, I understand you gave up your first-class seat on Flight 447 today to help a family in distress?" "Yes, but I don't see how that's." "And you're currently stranded due to the cancellation of Flight 623? "Unfortunately, yes." Sarah felt a knot forming in her stomach. "Is there some kind of problem? Because I didn't ask for any compensation or—" Jennifer held up her hand, smiling. "Quite the opposite. I've just received some very unusual instructions from our corporate office. It seems someone wants to ensure you get to Los Angeles tonight. Who could possibly have that kind of influence with an airline? And how would they even know about Sarah's situation?" "I don't understand." Jennifer's smile widened. "There's a private jet being prepared for departure in 20 minutes. You'll be the only passenger." Sarah's mouth fell open. "I'm sorry, what? There must be some mistake. I can't afford. It's completely paid for. All I need is your ID to confirm your identity." "Paid for by whom?" Jennifer consulted her tablet. "The instructions just say, 'A grateful father who believes in paying forward kindness.' Ring any bells?" Sarah's mind raced. David Chen? But how could he possibly afford a private jet? And more importantly, how had he even found out about her situation? "Ms. Martinez? The jet is waiting." In a daze, Sarah handed over her driver's license. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. Single mothers working 2 jobs just to make rent, people who bought their interview suits at discount stores and flew first class once in their entire lives using money that should have gone to groceries. But 30 minutes later, she was sitting in the most luxurious aircraft she'd ever seen, being served champagne by a flight attendant who treated her like royalty. The jet was equipped with everything imaginable: Wi-Fi, a bedroom, even a shower. As they climbed through the clouds toward Los Angeles, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was much more to David Chen than met the eye. During the flight, Sarah tried to piece together what little she knew about the man whose children she'd helped. David Chen, the name was common enough, but combined with his apparent ability to charter private jets on a moment's notice, it suggested someone with significant resources. She pulled out her phone and did a quick Google search. The results made her drop the device in her lap. David Chen, CEO and founder of Pacific Sky Airlines. Pacific Sky Airlines, the very airline she'd been flying on that morning. Can you believe this twist? What are the odds that Sarah would give up her seat to help the owner of the entire airline? But wait, there's so much more to this story that will blow your mind. Sarah's hands shook as she scrolled through article after article. David Chen, 34, had built Pacific Sky from a small regional carrier into one of the fastest-growing airlines in the country. He was worth an estimated $2.3 billion. His wife, Dr. Lisa Chun, was a renowned pediatric surgeon at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. And there, in a photo from a charity gala just 6 months ago, were Jake and Luke, smiling beside their parents. Sarah sat back in the plush leather seat, her mind reeling. She had given up her seat to help one of the wealthiest men in the airline industry, a man who could have easily bought out the entire first-class cabin if he'd wanted to. But in that moment at the gate, he had just been a desperate father, and his boys had just been scared children who needed their mother. The irony was staggering, but there was something else nagging at her. If David Chun owned the airline, why hadn't he identified himself to the gate agents? Why had he let the situation escalate to the point where passengers were being bumped? The private jet touched down at LAX at 9:15 p.m., and Sarah was whisked through the airport in a way she'd never experienced. No lines, no waiting, just smooth efficiency that spoke of serious influence. A black car was waiting for her on the tarmac. Ms. Martinez? The driver, a professional-looking woman in her 50s, approached with a warm smile. I'm Margaret, Mr. Chen's personal assistant. He's asked me to ensure you get to your hotel safely. As they drove through the LA traffic, Margaret explained that David had been tracking Sarah's situation through the airline's customer service system. When he learned about the canceled flight, he was beside himself. He said he couldn't bear the thought that your kindness might cost you an important opportunity. How is his wife? Sarah asked. And the boys? Margaret's expression softened. Mrs. Chun is stable. The surgery was successful, and the doctors are optimistic. The boys are staying at the hospital. There's a family suite. Mr. Chun hasn't left her side since they arrived. They pulled up to the Beverly Hills Hotel, a place Sarah never could have imagined staying. Margaret handed her a room key. Mr. Chun has arranged for the penthouse suite. There's also this. She passed Sarah an envelope with her name written in elegant handwriting. What could be in that envelope? Are you as amazed as I am by how this act of kindness is unfolding? Make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. Alone in the opulent penthouse suite, Sarah opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a handwritten letter. Dear Sarah, I've been trying to find the words to express what your kindness meant to my family today, but I keep falling short. In a world where most people are too busy to notice others' pain, you saw two scared little boys and their helpless father, and you acted without hesitation. I need to be honest with you about something. I own Pacific Sky Airlines. I could have resolved the overbooking situation with a single phone call. But here's what you couldn't have known. I was traveling incognito because Lisa and I have been dealing with some very public scrutiny about our marriage lately. The tabloids have been relentless, making up stories about affairs and divorce proceedings that simply aren't true. When Lisa collapsed at work 3 days ago, I panicked. I just grabbed the boys and booked the first available flight under a fake name because I couldn't bear the thought of photographers being at the hospital when we arrived. Isn't it fascinating how even the wealthiest people face struggles we never see? But this story is about to take another incredible turn. In my desperation to maintain our privacy, I created the very situation that could have kept my sons from their mother. And then you appeared, an angel who didn't care about airline policies or ticket prices or any of the complications that seemed insurmountable. You just cared about two children who needed to be with their family. I've spent the last few hours thinking about what kind of person gives up their first-class seat for strangers, especially when, as I've now learned, you're facing your own challenges. My assistant did some research, I hope you'll forgive the intrusion, and discovered that you have an interview tomorrow for a position that could change your life. The fact that you were willing to sacrifice that opportunity for people you'd never met tells me everything I need to know about your character. I have a proposition for you, Sarah. But first, go to your interview tomorrow and give it everything you've got. Whatever happens, know that you've already proven yourself to be exactly the kind of person the world needs more of. With infinite gratitude, David Chun. P.S. Jake insisted I tell you that he said a special prayer for you tonight with his teddy bear. Luke wanted you to know he's making you a thank you card, even more colorful than Mommy's. Sarah wiped away tears as she finished reading. The letter was beautiful, but what proposition was he talking about? And how had his assistant researched her so quickly? The next morning, Sarah woke in the most comfortable bed she'd ever slept in, feeling more rested than she had in months. The interview was at Innovate Tech Solutions, a startup developing AI-powered customer service platforms. She arrived early, her confidence bolstered by the previous day's events. The interview went better than she could have imagined. Her experience in customer service, combined with her natural empathy and problem-solving skills, seemed to resonate with the hiring team. When they asked about her philosophy on customer relations, she found herself telling them about the importance of seeing people as individuals with real problems and genuine needs. "That's exactly the mindset we're looking for," said Rebecca Winters, the company's founder. "We'll be making our decision by the end of the week." Sarah left the building feeling cautiously optimistic. Whatever happened next, she knew she'd given her best effort. But as she walked toward the street to catch a taxi back to the hotel, a familiar black car pulled up to the curb. "Ms. Martinez?" Margaret stepped out with her warm smile. "Mr. Chun was wondering if you might have time for lunch. Are you getting goosebumps? Because what's about to happen will change Sarah's life forever. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying this incredible story." The restaurant was a small, intimate place tucked away from the main tourist areas, the kind of spot where someone famous could eat without being bothered. David Chun was already seated at a corner table, looking tired but relieved. He stood as Sarah approached. "Sarah, thank you for coming. Please, sit down." He looked different than he had at the airport, more composed but also more vulnerable somehow. The designer suit was gone, replaced by jeans and a simple button-down shirt. "How is your wife?" Sarah asked immediately. David's face lit up. "She's awake. The doctors say she's going to make a full recovery. It'll be a long rehabilitation, but she's going to be okay." His voice caught slightly. "The boys got to talk to her this morning. She made them promise to find you so she could thank you properly." "You don't need to thank me. I'm just glad she's all right. But I do need to thank you. And more than that, I need to make you an offer." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Chun." "David, please." "David, I appreciate everything you've done. The jet, the hotel, all of it. But I can't accept charity." David leaned forward. "What if it wasn't charity? What if it was a job offer? Can you guess what kind of job offer a billionaire airline owner might make to someone who showed such incredible kindness?" This is where our story takes its most amazing turn yet. Sarah blinked. "I'm sorry. I've been thinking about this all night. Pacific Sky has grown so fast that we've lost something crucial, the human element. Our customer service has become robotic, policy-driven. We've forgotten that every passenger has a story, a reason for traveling, problems and hopes and fears. Yesterday, you reminded me what real customer service looks like." He pulled out a tablet and showed her a series of metrics. "Our customer satisfaction scores have been declining for 2 years. Our employees are burning out because they're not empowered to actually help people. We've become everything I swore we'd never become when I started this company. I don't understand what this has to do with me. I want you to head up a new division, Customer Experience Innovation. Your job would be to revolutionize how we treat our passengers, how we train our employees, how we think about service. I want you to make every interaction feel like what happened yesterday." Sarah stared at him. "You're offering me a job because I gave up my seat? I'm offering you a job because in one moment, you embodied everything this company should stand for. You saw a problem, you understood the human cost, and you acted with both compassion and decisiveness. Those aren't skills you can teach, Sarah. They're who you are." "The position would be based here in LA, David continued. "The salary would be $180,000 to start, plus equity in the company, full benefits, and a relocation package. You'd have a team of 20 people and a budget of $50 million to implement changes across our entire operation." Sarah nearly choked on her water. $180,000? David, I was interviewing for a $65,000 position this morning, and you probably would have been excellent at it. But I'm not offering you this job because I feel sorry for you. I'm offering it because I genuinely believe you could transform my company. Lisa agrees, by the way. I told her about you, and she said I'd be crazy not to try to hire you. Can you imagine? From potentially losing everything to being offered a dream job in less than 24 hours. But Sarah's response might surprise you. Sarah sat back in her chair, overwhelmed. This is incredible, and I'm incredibly flattered. But how do you know I can do this job? You've known me for exactly 1 day. David smiled. Fair question. Let me tell you what I learned about you in that 1 day. You're observant. You noticed those boys were scared before most people would have. You're decisive. You didn't hesitate once you understood the situation. You're selfless. You gave up something valuable to help strangers. And you're principled. You're sitting here questioning whether you deserve this opportunity instead of just accepting it. He leaned back. But more than that, I did some research. Your former colleagues at Morrison Marketing have nothing but amazing things to say about you. Your supervisor there told me you once drove 4 hours to personally deliver a presentation to a client whose son was in the hospital, just because you knew how important that account was to their family business. Sarah was stunned. You called Morrison? I called everyone. Your references, your former clients, even your daughter's teacher. Do you know what she said? She said Maya writes essays about how her mom always helps people, even when it's hard. She said you volunteer at the food bank every weekend, that you organized a fundraiser when another parent lost their job. Isn't it amazing how our actions ripple outward in ways we never realize? Sarah had no idea her kindness was being noticed by so many people. The point is, David continued, yesterday wasn't an anomaly. It's who you are. And that's exactly what Pacific Sky needs. Sarah felt tears welling up. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. I know it's a lot to process. Actually, Sarah said, wiping her eyes, I know exactly what to say. Yes. David's face broke into a huge grin. Yes? Just like that. Just like that. Sarah laughed, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders that she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying. But I have some conditions. Name them. First, I want to meet your team and understand the current challenges before I officially accept. I don't want to walk into something I can't handle. Done. Second, I want to start by working with your frontline employees, gate agents, flight attendants, customer service reps. They're the ones who interact with passengers every day. Any changes we make have to work for them. Absolutely. And third, Sarah paused, feeling emotional again. I want to establish a foundation within the company, something that helps families in crisis travel when they need to be together. What happened yesterday? Families getting separated when they need each other most. That shouldn't happen to anyone. David was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. The Chun Family Foundation for Emergency Travel. I love it. Are you getting emotional too? This story just keeps getting more incredible. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any more amazing stories like this. They spent the next 3 hours discussing Sarah's vision for transforming customer service. She talked about empowering employees to make exceptions, about training that focused on empathy rather than just procedures, about using technology to identify passengers who might need extra help. David listened intently, occasionally asking questions that showed he understood not just the business implications but the human ones. Sarah began to see why he'd been so successful. He genuinely cared about people, even if his company had lost sight of that mission along the way. There's one more thing, David said as they prepared to leave. I'd like you to meet someone. An hour later, they were walking through the halls of Children's Hospital Los Angeles. David led her to a private wing where the Chun family was staying. Through the window of one room, Sarah could see a woman with bandages around her head, sitting up in bed with 2 boys curled up beside her. Lisa's awake, David said softly. She insisted on meeting you. They entered the room quietly. Lisa Chun looked pale but alert, her eyes bright with intelligence and warmth. Jake and Luke looked up as they approached, and Jake immediately launched himself at Sarah. You're the airplane lady, he exclaimed, hugging her legs. Jake, Calm down, David said gently, but Lisa laughed. It's okay. Let him be excited. She looked at Sarah with tears in her eyes. I'm Lisa. I hear I have you to thank for my boys being here when I woke up. Sarah felt overwhelmed by emotion. How are you feeling? Like I've been hit by a truck, but grateful to be alive. David told me about his job offer. I hope you said yes. I did. Good. This company needs someone who understands that behind every passenger is a person with a story. Someone like you. This moment right here. Can you feel the power of human connection? How one simple act of kindness created a bond between complete strangers that will last forever. Luke shyly approached Sarah with a piece of paper. I made this for you. It was a crayon drawing of an airplane with stick figures visible through the windows. One figure was handing something to another, and there were hearts floating all around them. At the bottom, in careful block letters, it read, Thank you for helping US get TO Mommy. Sarah knelt down to Luke's level. This is the most beautiful picture anyone has ever given me. Can I keep it forever? Luke nodded enthusiastically. Daddy says you're going to help make airplanes nicer for everyone. I'm going to try my best. Jake tugged on her sleeve. Are you going to move to LA? Will we get to see you again? Sarah looked at David, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, I'm moving here, and I'd love to see you guys again, if that's okay with your parents. It's more than okay, Lisa said. You're family now. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the Pacific Sky headquarters, looking out at the bustling operations center through floor-to-ceiling windows. The Customer Experience Innovation Department had grown from her initial team of 20 to over 100 employees across all major airports. The changes they'd implemented were already showing results. Customer satisfaction scores had improved by 40%, and employee satisfaction was at an all-time high. But more importantly, they were helping people. The Chen Family Foundation for Emergency Travel had assisted over 500 families in its first 6 months, providing free flights for medical emergencies, family crises, and other urgent situations. Sarah received letters every week from people whose lives had been touched by the program. Her assistant knocked on the door. Sarah, the quarterly board meeting is in 10 minutes. Thanks, Jennifer. I'll be right there. Sarah gathered her presentation materials, a comprehensive report on how empathy-driven customer service was not just improving passenger experiences but actually increasing profits. Turns out, people were willing to pay more and fly more often with an airline that treated them like human beings. As she walked toward the boardroom, her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Mom, I'm so proud of you. See you tonight. Maya had adapted beautifully to life in LA. She loved her new school, had made great friends, and best of all, she got to see her mother genuinely happy for the first time in years. They lived in a beautiful apartment in Santa Monica, and Sarah had even started dating again. A kind pediatrician she'd met through Lisa Chen. Can you believe how completely Sarah's life transformed from that one moment of kindness? But this story has one final twist that will leave you absolutely speechless. The boardroom was packed with Pacific Skies executives, investors, and board members. Sarah had presented to this group several times now, but today felt different. David had hinted that there was special business to discuss after her presentation. Sarah delivered her quarterly report flawlessly, showing how the customer experience initiatives had not only improved satisfaction, but had also increased revenue by $200 million. The board members nodded approvingly as she outlined plans for expansion. Any questions? Sarah asked as she finished. Robert Maxwell, the chairman of the board, raised his hand. Just one. David, would you like to explain why we're really here today? David stood up, grinning. Actually, Sarah, there's something I haven't told you. Sarah felt a familiar flutter of nervousness. What? Do you remember that interview you went on the day after we met? With Innovate Tech Solutions. Of course, they ended up hiring someone else. Actually, they didn't. Sarah frowned. I don't understand. David's grin widened. They wanted to hire you. In fact, Rebecca Winters called me personally to tell me it was the best interview she'd ever conducted. She said you were exactly what their company needed. Then why didn't they offer me the job? Because I bought the company. What? Did you see that coming? David bought the entire company just to make sure Sarah would be available to work for him. The room erupted in laughter as Sarah's mouth fell open. You did what? I bought Innovate Tech Solutions 3 days after your interview. It's now a subsidiary of Pacific Sky, specializing in customer service AI. Rebecca Winters is the CEO, and she's been dying to meet with you about integrating their technology with our empathy-driven approach. Sarah sank into her chair. David Chun, are you insane? Probably. But here's the thing. I didn't buy it just to keep you from taking another job. I bought it because their technology, combined with your vision, could revolutionize the entire airline industry. We could create a system that identifies passengers who need extra help, that predicts problems before they happen, that personalizes service in ways no one has ever imagined. Robert Maxwell spoke up. Which brings us to the real reason for today's meeting. Sarah, the board has voted unanimously to offer you the position of Chief Customer Experience Officer. You'd be reporting directly to David and would have oversight of all customer-facing operations across the entire Pacific Sky family of companies. Are you getting chills? From giving up a first-class seat to becoming a C-level executive at a major airline, this is the kind of story that reminds us that kindness really can change everything. Sarah looked around the room at all the faces staring at her expectantly. 6 months ago, she was an unemployed single mother facing eviction. Today, she was being offered one of the most influential positions in the airline industry. There's one more thing, David added. The salary is $400,000 plus equity, but more importantly, you'd have the resources to expand the Chun Family Foundation globally. We want to help families in crisis all over the world. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. I don't deserve this. Lisa Chen, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, spoke up. Sarah, do you know what you said to me in the hospital that first day? I don't remember. You said that everyone deserves kindness, especially when they're scared and vulnerable. You said that's just what people do for each other. Lisa smiled. Well, this is what we do for each other. You showed our family extraordinary kindness, and now we want to help you show that same kindness to the world. 2 years later, Sarah stood on the stage at the International Customer Service Excellence Awards, holding a trophy recognizing Pacific Sky Airlines as the world's most customer-focused airline. In the audience, she could see David and Lisa Chen with Jake and Luke, now 12 years old and volunteering as junior ambassadors for the Chun Family Foundation. The foundation had helped over 10,000 families and had inspired similar programs at airlines around the world. Sarah's empathy-driven customer service model had been adopted by companies in dozens of industries. She'd written a best-selling book about the experience called The Kindness Advantage and had been featured on the cover of Time magazine as one of the leaders changing the world. But none of that mattered as much as the letter she'd received that morning from a single father in Ohio whose daughter had needed emergency surgery in Boston. Thanks to the foundation, he'd been able to fly to her side immediately, and she'd made a full recovery. He wrote, I don't know who you are, but because of your kindness, I got to hold my daughter's hand when she needed me most. That's everything. Isn't it incredible how one moment of kindness can ripple outward to touch thousands of lives? This is why we need more people like Sarah in the world. As Sarah looked out at the audience, she thought about that day at the airport, how scared she'd been about her interview, how desperate she'd felt about her future. She'd had no idea that giving up her seat would change not just her life, but the lives of countless others. During her acceptance speech, she said, People ask me all the time about the secret to exceptional customer service. They want to know about systems and processes and metrics. But the truth is, it all comes down to one simple thing. Seeing the person in front of you as a human being with real needs, real fears, and real hopes. When you do that, everything else follows. After the ceremony, as Sarah was leaving the venue, a young woman approached her nervously. Excuse me, Ms. Martinez? I'm sorry to bother you, but I wanted to thank you. Thank me for what? I was on a Pacific Sky flight last month with my elderly mother. She has dementia, and she got confused and scared during boarding. Your gate agent, Maria, spent 20 minutes just talking to her, helping her feel safe. She even arranged for us to sit together even though we had separate reservations. The woman's eyes filled with tears. It was my mom's last flight before she went into memory care. Because of your employees' kindness, it was a beautiful experience instead of a traumatic one. Sarah hugged the woman, feeling the familiar warmth that came from knowing their work was making a real difference. That's what we're here for. As Sarah drove home that night to the house she now owned in Malibu, a far cry from the cramped apartment she'd shared with Maya just a few years earlier, she reflected on the incredible journey her life had taken. Maya was now 14, confident and kind, volunteering with the foundation and talking about wanting to study international relations so she could help families. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories that will make you think and feel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our upcoming stories.